Hans Wormhat, thank you to a commenter for sending me this. This is a really recent kind of pop science article, and it's one of those things where I'm not sure who the original source is, but all the different outlets seem to be parroting one another. So the claim is the Earth is making the moon rust. And I'll just read this. Scientists had the same reaction you probably did when they reached this conclusion. It shouldn't be possible. After all, there's no oxygen on the moon. And they talk about water too. Well, the truth is that NASA Outer Space Fantasyland's just not real. And you can just tell by how they have to use cartoons all the time. And I'll just leave it at that. This video is not about that. It's mostly just, I want to show this. And thank you again to the commenter. They made the connection. The moon rusting. Rust is iron oxide. And iron is in our blood. And there's biblical prophecy that says that the moon will turn into blood. So even if you know people who still believe all the NASA stuff, you should still be able to show them, look, the moon is turning to blood. The moon is rusting. And you can read any of this stuff if you want, but it's just a bunch of NASA garbage. Once you know that it's all just totally BS, kind of lose interest. But just the way they talk about stuff, it's very puzzling. Just the fact that they'll admit that this doesn't make any sense. But they'll never tell you the reason that this doesn't make any sense is because everything you've been taught in school is a bunch of BS. Then they give you some hypothesis. They're blaming it on the Earth. And I'll just point out here that I think the reason that they're blaming it on the Earth is kind of an homage, you might say, to the fact that they tell us, oh, moonlight isn't actually from the moon. It's from the sun. So I think similarly, they're saying, well, the moon is rusting, but it's not the moon's fault. The Earth is causing it. I think that they're kind of showing that, hey, we already play this type of game. Where they're trying to pretend like the thing that's happening on the moon isn't actually from the moon. Anyways, the moon is rusty, and it's likely the Earth's fault. People will believe anything that the news tells them. And there might be a grain of truth to this. I don't know. The moon does appear more red these days. And that's not how things rust, though. I've never seen something rust where just the whole thing turns kind of an orange shade. I thought this was really interesting. I wanted to compare today's moon to an old moon. And this is a really nice shot of a moon from 1980. And I remember the moon used to look much more faint and kind of smudgier, almost like it was out of focus. I remember people would talk about the man on the moon, and I never understood it. I was like, I can't really see the man on the moon. It's kind of smudgy and dull. I just wanted to share this. I'll leave a link in the description to this article. It's very interesting. They even talked about the dome in this article. So maybe they were illuminated during this trip to the reality. The moon rose in a place I didn't expect. I expected the full moon to rise in the same place the sun had risen in the morning, but it came up somewhat to the south. Why? Well, it's because you live in a discrete system. Where the sun and moon rises, it's not continuous. Sometimes there will be drastic changes just over the course of a few days where the moon is rising. For instance, if you live in the north, have you noticed that very, very quickly we went from having the moon really, really low in the sky to now the moon is back to being high in the sky. And it happened over just a week. This is what the moon used to look like. This is what it looks like now. They look very different, especially in the way, and people are going to say, oh, well, cameras are better. No, film is very, very high quality. There are film photographs from 100 years ago that still have amazing quality. So it's just not a good comparison. I remember with my own eyes, which are not film, or not film and not photography at all. I remember with my own eyes that the moon didn't used to be so bright and that the moon used to look fuzzy and just way more dull. And I remember that with my eyes. But here you go. Here are pictures showing it. And have you guys noticed that too? It's like the white spots on the moon are so much whiter and brighter, and the dark spots are darker. It's just we see it all better now than we used to. And some people say maybe it's because everything's getting closer. Maybe the moon and the sun are getting closer. That's certainly a meme in media and video games of the moon getting closer and closer and closer. There's a whole Zelda game all about that idea. Well, okay, going back to the rust thing, got a little sidetracked. The moon into blood. The stars shall fall from heaven. Yeah, the firmament's going to open up, and they're above us, so it's going to fall down. The powers of heaven shall be shaken. The sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. So tell your loved ones, even if people believe all the NASA stuff at this point, you should still be able to show them that connection. They're admitting that the moon is rusting, and rust is iron. Iron is blood, or at least in our blood. So this has been fulfilled, or is being fulfilled currently. Moon becoming as blood. God bless everyone.